Just as sure as the sun sets at the end of the day, and then the darkness fades and the clouds they roll away. Just as sure as the hands on the clock keep ticking away the time, and trouble on my mind makes it hard for joy to find. Just as sure as winter fades and then it turns to spring, I believe deliverance will surely come for me. Just as sure as my heart will someday be
Okay. All right, cool. So,
just as I do.
might as well. You gotta do it eventually.
Just as I do love you. Just as sure as the
All right. Hello, everybody. It's Cody. My co-host Michelle. She is not in today. She'll be out. And we still got a good show for you guys today. Hold on just a second.
No matter how I feel, now I live by what I know. Just as sure as trials come to pull.
There it is. All right, there we go. And where's that lock talk button? Here we go. All right. A little technical difficulties there. All right. It's your guy, Cody. I'm a little nervous today. I don't have my partner in crime, Michelle. This is Family Affair, Fishbowl Network, a family affair. Good to have you guys. We got a good show for you today. We'll be talking about the role that religion plays in our families and our communities. Is it still relevant? We'll talk about the state of affairs between black men and black women. And lastly, what does progress look like in our community, and how do we get there? How do we achieve progress? I got my man Robert White. He good dude, man. I'm looking forward for you guys to meet him and get a chance to get to know him a little bit more. So Robert, without further ado, can you introduce yourself?
Sure.
For the listeners.
One, let me just tell y'all, Cody is the man today. He's got the pressure on him, so I'm just here to talk. He has to do all the technical stuff to keep everything afloat. So y'all give him some love right now, because he's making this thing work. As he said, I'm Robert White. I'm here filling in for Michelle. I'm not a replacement. I'm filling in. I know how it is when you listen to the radio and you get a good radio personality that you like to listen to, and then all of a sudden they're missing and nobody ever explains what happened to them. Your show is just gone. Michelle will be back. Matter of fact, shout out to Michelle. She is handling business, doing her thing, blowing up in what it is that she desires to do. But I'm Robert White. I'm here to fill in just this month. I'm a simple dude, man. I'm a 38-year-old pastor of Freedom Church in Bedford, Texas. I am the father of two young women, 8 and 10-year-old Michaela and Mackenzie White.
Oh man, that's
My
awesome.
wife is Marisha White. I don't even know if they're watching. You know, I don't even think. I hope they are. That's the type of support I need from them today. Shout out to them if they're listening. But yeah, I'm originally from Long Beach, California. Been in Texas. Now 13 years,
awesome.
And just looking forward to the show, man. Looking forward to hanging out with Cody. Had some time to just kick it beforehand and spend some time chopping it up. And so we're looking forward to what we have for y'all today.
Oh man, Robert, thank you for that, man. That's
no problem.
We're looking forward to having you. We got a good show for everybody. So Robert, you mentioned that you got 2 daughters, you got a wife originally from Long Beach, California.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested, man. You got a house full of women, man. What was your life like before marriage?
Okay, so I grew up in Long Beach, and the interesting thing is, I grew up in a house where it was my dad, my mom, me, and my 2 brothers. So it was the complete opposite.
Oh,
my
man.
mom was the only female in the house, and me being the oldest, maybe God was like, "Yo, I gotta let you see how your mom was feeling,
let's
man.
flip the
script." And so for the last 13 years, man, I've been the only man in my house. And so 2 years ago, we got a dog, and my daughter wanted a dog for her birthday, and I was like, "It's got to be a boy." It's got to be a boy. So Malachi, I need some other testosterone.
You need some testosterone in the crib.
And then we messed around and got him fixed. So, you know, you lose some of the testosterone right there, right away. So, yeah, man, it's I grew up not around a lot of women that way. I mean, as far as, you know, in my household, there's always guys. And so now, and I'm a pretty aggressive dude.
Yeah.
And so I got a big voice. I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
I'm an aggressive person. And so I've had to learn how to be sensitive, man.
Man.
I'm an aggressive dude, and I talk to my daughter sometimes, and I look, and I'm like, "Oh wait, no, I didn't mean for that to crush you. Like that was just me being me." And so I've had to learn to be sensitive. So
well, that's awesome, man. Well, maybe you can kind of bring that balance to us today. And I know that normally Michelle and I kind of go, and we speak from kind of juxtaposing positions. She a lot of times brings that sensitivity, a different side, and with you kind of being a pastor and you know, kind of have a house full of women, you'll bring that different approach, man.
That's
so
true,
looking
man.
forward
That's
to it.
true.
All right, so without further ado, we'll kind of just go ahead and get into it. So first topic, what role does religion play in our communities and in our families? Is it still relevant?
Yeah.
Is it still relevant? So, you know, I'll let my guest go first. Robert, wanted to get your thoughts on that. Do you think, well, first off, what role do you feel like religion plays? Ask the pastor what role it plays.
Yeah, so you ask the pastor, right? Automatically, everybody's like, "Oh, we already know what he got to say." And the truth of the matter is, man, religion can play a good or a bad role. I think it just depends on the people that are involved.
Gotcha.
And I mean, we can look throughout history and see how religion, because we say, we're talking about specifically today, right? Is it still relevant? What role should it play? Obviously, there's some positive things that religion can do.
Right.
But I think, honestly, I want to kind of play the devil's advocate for a little bit and kind of talk about how religion can kind of play a poor role.
We got a pastor talking
our
about the
community.
devil?
Hey, I heard somebody say this one time. It's a funny little tangent. I was like, "Man, you always playing the devil's advocate. The devil don't need no lawyer." and I'm sure he doesn't need a lawyer in this instance, because a whole bunch of people are like, "Yeah, I knew the church was jacked up." But to that degree, I do feel like there is a negative role that religion can play in our society, in our community specifically, when people begin to use it as a crutch against progress. And so there are times when, you know, people use religion as a God's going to provide, God's going to do it. And I'm a firm believer in that, man. I quote scripture, God will provide all your needs according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus. I'm a believer that there is nothing that God can't do.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is there are some things God called me to do. And so in that, man, if I'm saying like, "Oh yeah, God's going to take care of it," and God's like, "Nah, bro, I'm waiting on you."
Right.
Like, I need you to act. I need you to do it. Like James says, faith without works is dead.
Absolutely.
And so we have a whole lot of faith at times, and I think sometimes our faith is an excuse for our fantasies. Like, "Oh, I'm going to go down to the Bentley dealership with my 300 credit score, lay my hands on it, and tell the Bentley dealer, you're going to give this to me because my daddy owns a cattle on 1,000 hills." He gonna
Name
look
it and
at
claim
me
it,
like,
right?
Yeah, right. You're going to name it and claim it, and he's going to send you right out that showroom floor like, "Hey, bro, I'm going to call security because, you know, this 300 ain't going to get it." You know, and I think sometimes we can use that as an excuse for what it is that we won't do. And I think we've got to be careful that we don't use religion as a crutch. And I think that's why it's important to base our faith off of the relationship we have with Jesus and obedience to his commands.
Amen.
Because obedience means I got to move.
Right.
Obedience means I got to do something. And so I'll kick us off with this whole notion that I think a lot of people use faith as a crutch, man. Faith as a crutch to not do what they're called to do. You know, sometimes it's, I don't want to work on my marriage, right? I don't want to work on these relationships. I don't want to work on having to forgive this person, that person. God's going to take care of it. It's in God's hands.
God knows my heart.
You know, God knows my heart. And so people would use these things as an excuse, man. Sometimes we use religion as an excuse for our political apathy, right? Oh, well, I just had to, God's got it in control. God's going to do it. I've heard people say that before, man. I don't vote, man. God's going to take care of it. And it's like we use religion for our political apathy. We use it for our political abuse. Right. There are people who abuse people politically, using religion as this is what God will want. And they use one, for instance, you have certain parties that will use one issue from a religious standpoint, and they'll abuse people. So I think we got to be careful with religion as it relates to the law and legalism,
right?
And not take it without the spirit of what God wants us to have.
Absolutely.
So I think religion is relevant,
right?
But it's relevant in the right hands, right? And when
Got
we put it in the wrong hands and we use it as an excuse or something to I guess ward off our responsibility, it's one of those things that can be deadly, and we've seen that throughout history. You know what I mean?
I would definitely agree with that. I think that the role that the religion plays in our families, I do feel like people kind of use it as a crutch today. We got to be careful with it. We got to use our faith in the right reasons. And I think, a piece of scripture that comes to mind when you say what you said is, faith without works is dead, right? So
right.
You kind of mentioned that mentality or the notion that people they operate in this belief that, hey, God's got everything, and I don't have to work. I can just sit back and with my 300 credit score, I can name it and claim it, and that's we all know that that's not reality, right? When God has given us, He's given us reasoning ability, He's given us wisdom, and so we know better than that. So I appreciate you playing devil's advocate. I'll take it from a different perspective. I think that I too agree that religion does play a vital role in our families, in our community. I think that it helps to shape our views, our values, and our beliefs. When I think about how I came up, I grew up Christian in the church. So a lot of the things that I value, a lot of the things that I believe about God, and the things that I know about God, was shaped by Christianity and just how I was brought up.
Right.
I think my morality, my entire belief system has been shaped by Christianity. But you said something there that really, I think, is the crux of it all. I mean, I think religion has been dealt a bad hand, and rightfully so, over the course of history. Right. I think people have used and mutilated religion to meet whatever they wanted, but I think a true relationship with God is really what matters at the end of the day. And so, is it still relevant? Absolutely, I believe that it is still relevant.
You know what's funny? My brothers, not to cut you off, my brothers and I, you mentioned being in the church all your life, and it gives you a sense of values and morality and things. I grew up, like I said, in the house with all boys. So it was my dad, my mom, my two brothers. My dad was a pastor, so I did not want to do this. Bro. Like, this was not my thing. I know what it's like to have somebody calling you at 2 o'clock in the morning talking about come to the hospital, all this stuff, and then the same people that you go see. Anyway, not gonna go there. But I didn't want to do this, man. This was not my chosen career path. Yeah. But I am grateful for my upbringing. Like, every bit of what I hated growing up. Yeah. Like, my mom would say, like, the Holy Spirit told me you've been acting up, and I'm like, man, the Holy Spirit is a snitch, man. What's up with this dude? But I'm grateful for all of it, everything that I was angry about then, because my brothers and I joke now. We say, hey, while everybody else in our neighborhood or people who didn't have those boundaries, like the things that they ended up in now as adults and grown, and some of the things they can't get out of, man. Some of them with prison sentences, some of them, with multiple failed relationships, some of them with, situations and things. I mean, some of them not living.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? Lost their life. I mean, where I'm from, there's a lot of guys who didn't make it to see 38 years old. And I joke and I say I'm 38, but I was raised in the church, so I'm 38 years, 9 months in the church. You know what I mean? But with that, we always say there was an invisible line that we never would cross, because there was morality and value and certain things that were placed in us early. Yeah. That even, if you want to just call it the moral boundaries, right? The moral lines that were drawn by our parents. Like, we were just like, nah, we're not going to do that, man. Right. We're not going to do that. And I think it's something to be said about a society now where the rules are all blurred and everybody just kind of does what they want to do. Judges says, and every man did what was right in his own eyes. And that is a recipe for disaster. Absolutely. And one of the things that I think we have to do is we have to go back to a place where we raise our children with a standard.
Absolutely.
We got to raise our children with a standard. I think I look at so many things that are in the Bible that I realized are more than just religion, right? Religion is to practice something in a systematized way.
Right.
And it's more than just religion, like it's well-being, right? When I look at like books like Leviticus, like if you want to if you don't have NyQuil on deck and you want to go to sleep, like grab you some Leviticus, bro. You can go to bed. Like it'll put you to sleep. But then when you really dig into it,
Grab some Leviticus.
you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all had that NyQuil. Grab that Leviticus, man. Look in there and grab your stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the things I realized, though, is that was like advanced medical advice from God who created them in a world where they didn't have med school and things of that nature. Like, I mean, this dude is saying practical stuff like, hey, man, if you're going to go to the bathroom, go outside the camp and bury that stuff. Like, don't just do it in the house.
Right.
You know, if
where disease and pestilence can kind of fester, right?
Exactly. And I mean, he's giving them advanced medical practices for that time frame. And as we look at it, man, the Bible is a book of well-being. Like, God is looking at us and saying, hey, if you follow these things, I mean, he literally says it in Deuteronomy. He's like, if you follow these things, man, the diseases of the other nations will come on you. Like, these are the things that'll be well for you. Like, all of these things will go. But if you don't, here are all the consequences. And I think we've run away from the aspect of authority in our society. Like, authority is one of those things that we don't want to deal with. And so God being an authority that you can't, like, challenge,
right?
I think that's what we run up against when people say, oh, religion's not relevant anymore.
Right.
It's, I don't want to be involved with this authority figure anymore. And I think that's the problem. When we understand him as a loving God who's given us this opportunity for our best life, well-being, then we realize, okay, this is not that bad, man. There's some good stuff here. And God has actually called us to something greater than what we're settling for. So, you know.
That's deep, man. That's deep. You said something there that really just kind of made me think, as far as the authority piece.
Yeah.
You know, do people really struggle with the concept of religion, or is it that they don't want to be answerable? They don't want to answer to an authority figure.
Right.
Right? And then they question the relevancy of religion because they don't want to be held accountable for their actions. But I honestly couldn't imagine a world with no authority, with no boundaries. I mean, think if we had no government. What if we had no speed limits?
Right.
People could literally go as fast as they wanted in your neighborhood. So you said you got two daughters,
Two
right?
daughters. They were just riding their bikes earlier today.
Right, riding your bike early today. And imagine a guy comes around the corner going 100 miles an hour. No government, no authority. I couldn't imagine a world with no government or authority.
Think about the lanes on the freeway, bro.
Yeah.
Like they keep us in line.
Absolutely.
They keep us in line. Like, without lanes on the freeway, you got this wide, cement pathway. Everybody's with tons of weight.
Yeah.
And just moving in and out. Like, there's protection within the boundaries.
Absolutely. So, like, I'm reminded of, the Autobahn in Germany, out in Europe. You know, they don't have speed limits posted, but there are still rules of the road. Slower moving traffic moves to the right. So there's still rules. There's still some unknown written authority to keep it safe for everybody. So I think that not to get too deep into it, but you mentioned legalism. You mentioned a lot of different things earlier. But I think religion is so much more than just rules and authority, because you mentioned well-being.
Right.
God put us basic instructions in the Bible, right, to kind of organize our steps, to guide our footsteps for our well-being.
Right.
It's not just to keep us in line, but literally we will prosper you. I'm reminded of, Jeremiah 29:11. That's a very, very well quoted piece of scripture. But
still good though.
He has a plan to prosper us, right? So it's not this restrictive, rule-bound, systematic structure to keep us bound, right? It's to keep us safe.
Well-being. And you know what the problem is? Anything that gives us rules, accountability, and authority, we always want to buck up against it and say it's not relevant anymore, it's this and that. And then we'll go to what we think makes us feel good. So I'm reminded, like, I'm not just on the show, right? I'm a fan of the show, right?
Yeah.
So I watched the first show, talking about cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
And so,
okay.
right?
My man, hey.
I do my homework. You know what I'm saying? I do my homework. But we talk about cancel culture, and we look to celebrities, and in the moment where they make us feel good, man, we prop them up. We're like, this is great. This is such and such. But the moment where something comes up and we're like, and it's not even necessarily, that fall from grace is like, ooh, okay, I got to roll against that. Like, we don't have any set, as people, like we have this thing where we'll turn in anything that doesn't make us feel good.
Right.
So it's like, God, man, if you make me feel good, like, I'm your guy.
Hey, give me the blessings. I'm all for that. Tyler,
That's kind of hard, bro.
That's
That's
kind of
kinda
hard. 10%?
10%.
But
You know what I'm saying?
miracles? Give me that.
But real talk though, right? If I say to God, like, I can't give you 10%, bro, that's kind of steep.
Yeah.
But I'm on this Supreme, and like Supreme is gonna cost me more than 10% of my gear. I'm not gonna hate on the Beehive, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You go to we got AT&T Stadium right in the
Right.
horizon of where we are. Like, people spend their rent money, man, to go
Right.
see Beyonce,
Yeah.
and I'm not hating on them, man, because I believe, like, hey, man, be entertained, have a good time, dress nice, do your thing. But at the same time, like, don't tell God he's unreasonable for something that you're giving to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And God is saying, hey, I'm exchanging what it is. I mean, I blessed you with what you got.
Absolutely.
You at least give something back.
We literally operate in a world here in America where our government is taking our money before it even hits our paycheck. God's only asking for 10%, right?
Right,
So,
right.
that's deep, man.
Hey, man, I heard somebody say this about the giving thing, though,
Yeah.
and I know we like way into another topic, but still talking about religion being relevant. If we really believe that God is the giver of all life, sustainer of all things, like I don't have a job if he don't bless me, right?
Absolutely.
We don't have material to work with if he doesn't create it.
Absolutely.
Like, we go back to the basic of all of what we believe about God, and God said, man, you can't even call it giving, it's bringing. Right, if I let you borrow my car, right, and I'm like, here, Cody, you can go ahead, you can ride down to the store,
That's
man,
deep.
go get us something to drink, all this stuff like that, and I say, hey, man, here's the keys. When you come back, you're like, hey, Robert, I want to give you this car. It's like, nah, bro, you bring it back to me. What's mine, and I'll let you use.
Bring back to the store.
Yeah, bring the tithe. That's why he says bring it, right?
He said give the tithe.
He didn't say
bring
get
the tithe.
exactly.
Like
And so what we got to do, man, is we got to realize, like, it's an authority issue with people, man. So when we say is religion relevant, we're really asking ourselves, do I want to be subject to somebody's authority? And I think it's for presidents, right? You can look at a president and you like a certain president, you're like, yeah, man, they're giving him a hard time. It's the struggle, man. Instead of that, you don't like a president, you're like, let's get this dude out of here.
Yeah.
He's messing up our country.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes any way you want to see it.
Man, that's deep, man. You dropping some knowledge here, Robert,
man.
which I would expect from a pastor, but you
It's
really
just a
are.
family affair. It's the atmosphere, bro. I'm feeling it, you know.
Well, yeah, man. So I think we can kind of conclude that religion is relevant if done right. That people really struggle with authority,
Yeah.
and having to answer to a higher deity, if you will, in this case, God. But it still plays a vital role in our lives. So I think any other kind of closing thoughts, lasting thoughts on that one?
No, I think it's funny because we're doing this since tomorrow's Easter, right? And so, you got your people who are like, oh, man, I got to get to church because it's Easter. I think one of the things people got to recognize, man, is like a lot of people are going to get beat up for going to church because it's Easter. They're like, oh, you can't because it's Easter. I think the reality is, man, this is one of those things where you celebrate people for actually recognizing and thinking like, man, I haven't been in the last 365 days, but I at least need to do this. It's at least a step in the right direction.
Indeed.
And so just my kind of encouragement to people who are kind of sitting back like, oh, man, should I not go with the rest of the CMEs? They call them Christmas, Mother's Day, Easter Saints. Should I not go with the rest of the CMEs? I'm like, hey, man, go. Like, because there's a relationship that God wants with you. And imagine if your kid, like, decided, hey, they go call you on your birthday every year, and you stop getting that call on your birthday every year. Like, that's a detriment to the relationship.
Indeed.
Like, obviously you want more out of the relationship, but at some point, man, start with what you got.
Indeed.
And keep moving forward. So that'll be my last thing.
That's
It's relevant. Let's just do something about it.
That's deep. Yeah. That's deep. So it sounds like we're pretty aligned on that, man. I appreciate you kind of taking that one and kind of playing devil's advocate first and kind of approaching it from a different lens, because I think most people would expect a pastor to really come on and obviously advocate for religion and Christianity.
Should
but
have a 3-point sermon. And
have a 3-point sermon. But no, man, that's deep, man. I like that. So next topic is black men and black women, the state of affairs.
I'm out.
Robert said, man, give me my 40 acres and a mule, and I want no parts of this.
None of this.
I want none of that.
That's what's up.
No. So the state of affairs between black men and black women. And I wanted to cue this up as a topic because I'm a part of various Facebook groups and different social media groups. And Robert, I know that we kind of talked, and you're a married man, so married to a beautiful black chocolate
Beautiful
sister.
black woman, dark-skinned black woman.
Hey,
Yeah.
all right, man, that's awesome. But yeah, so I'm affiliated with different groups, and they're primarily black professionals. I got people in the medical field, people in the business world, and we seem to be at odds on those forums, particularly as it pertains to black men and black women and the black family. Do black men desire black women? I've got some thoughts on that, and I wanted to just kind of get your thoughts. So I'll let you kind of share your thoughts on that one.
So I have not been single or in like forums like that in such a long time. And I know it's not necessarily a single versus married thing, but I know a lot of it comes up in singles because I pastor, right? So I get a chance to talk to single women, and some of this comes up when you start seeing like, hey, I'm looking for a husband. I'm trying to desire, I want to do this thing God's way, but where are all the black men, and I see the same thing that you see, man. It's kind of like there's this misconception that black men are not looking for, seeking a black woman.
So hold on, I want to pause right there. So you said a word there that just really kind of made me think. You said a misconception, which means that there's this perceived conception that black men don't desire black women. What you're saying is actually a misconception.
I agree, man. I think it's a misconception. I don't think black men are out there looking for women who are not black. Right? I don't think that's a truth. I think the reality is in our country, because of the history of kind of how some of the things we've gone through, we kind of talked about this a little bit, that with interracial marriage being something that was forbidden. Man, you tell a kid not to touch a stove, they want to touch a stove, right? So with the forbidden nature of kind of interracial dating and relationships, with some of the history that has happened in our country with the illegality, I guess is the best word, of interracial marriage, and you see people that do it now, and it's kind of like, okay, you see it, it's more noticeable between black and white, really the interracial dating between black and white. I think one of the things that we have to remind ourselves of is that when we do decide to date inside of our race, it's not narrow-minded, it's not racist, it's not thinking of yourself as better than another race. I think some of that plays into or less than, right? Like, I'm not settling for a black woman.
Right.
Like, I mean, and to say that I'm only looking for a black woman would be narrow-minded as well.
Right.
But to say that I don't like black women, I'm specifically looking for a white woman, I don't think that's the majority of what black men are saying.
Man. Speak on it.
I don't think that's what the majority of black men are saying. I believe
Preach,
that
preacher.
the black men that I know, right? I mean, I am one, and I have a beautiful black wife.
Amen.
And the honest truth is, man, my wife knows this, so this is not, what I'm saying. Don't try to misquote me.
Yeah, my man
Get
getting
it right
rowdy
on the
points.
radio. My wife knows this, right? But I say this all the time. Like, I'm a man who understands, like, God made men and women different.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate what he did when he made women, and I especially appreciate what he did when he made black women, and specifically what he did when he made mine.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So it's a broad scope, right? I'm a guy who appreciates the beauty of women.
Yes, sir.
Specifically, I love black women, man.
Yes,
I love the beauty of black women, skin tones, the variations of how they look and who we are. There's a diversity of black women. To say that a black man is looking for something outside of his race would be to reduce the intelligence and the appreciation of what a black man sees as a woman.
Amen, bro.
Because there's so many different types of black women out there, right? To say, like, oh, he checking for her because she's white. Well, there's light-skinned black women, dark-skinned black women.
Absolutely.
Oh, he don't like my hair texture. Well, there's curly-haired black women, straight-haired black women, tall black women, short black women. There's a variety of black women out there. And so there is this caricature of black women, though, that I think some men are running from. And I think the media portrays it, right? We got reality shows full of and I don't want to stereotype any black woman. I'm saying the caricature that the media puts up, right? The black woman who is rude, disrespectful, angry, not successful. Right. We're not talking about successful.
Right.
Because success and arrogance are two different things.
Absolutely.
A black woman can be successful and not necessarily disrespectful or arrogant.
Absolutely.
Right? And so the caricature of black women that we see in the media is what some black men are running from.
Yes.
And I think because media sometimes influences behavior, so maybe the women who are offended, oh man, I'm gonna get some bad press on this.
Yeah.
Maybe the women who are
Our
offended.
comments are blowing up on this one.
Is that what it is?
It's starting to blow up.
Maybe the women who are offended have taken on a path
Yeah.
of some of the women that these men are running from. And it's not that they're running from black women, they're running from a particular type of woman. Whether she was black, white, Asian, or Hispanic. I don't want a woman who would disrespect. I tell people all the time, man, respect is a huge thing for a man.
Yeah.
In any relationship, a man wants to be respected, whereas a woman desires to be loved, right? And so when she sees herself as being not loved, she becomes disrespectful. And when he sees himself being disrespectful, he becomes cold and unloving. And there's a cycle that's created. And it may not be necessarily a black versus white thing as it is a male-female thing. And there's a level of respect that men are feeling like they're, if I can't get it, listen, in our society in America, we're black men.
Absolutely.
We're large black men, right? We decide to sit on the opposite side of the table.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
like, hey, it's not going to work.
And we big in here right now.
We
right?
big in here, right? We taking up the whole room.
Yeah.
But the truth is, man, we understand that society doesn't necessarily give us the amount of respect due. Right? There's
Absolutely.
a level of we have to earn. People hearing us talk on the radio now are saying, "Oh, those are two articulate black men."
Right.
But
You're so well spoken.
You're so well spoken.
You speak so well.
And the assumption is you see us in here and we kind of, we in T-shirts and, we kind of chilling. We got fades and they're like, what are they going to be talking about, man? It's a basketball show?
Right.
It's a football. They doing spring football.
Or they analyzing what's going on with the Cowboys. What's going on?
Right. So what's happening? And to hear us talking like this is a shock because we don't necessarily garnish the respect that everybody else gets. And so for a black man who has to go into his relationship now and see like, oh man, there's no respect here either.
Yeah.
There's no respect from you either. He's not running from the black woman. He's looking for respect. He's looking for somebody. It's not even necessarily that the word that we don't like to use. It's biblical, but we don't like to use that submission.
Oh,
That word submission, right? We can't. That's gonna really blow the comments up.
Submission.
But
yeah,
it's not that he's running from a black woman.
Yeah.
It's that he's looking for respect.
he's looking for respect.
And I think what we can give now to the brothers, right? We have to give respect.
Absolutely.
We have to give respect because respect is not something that we can expect without giving back.
Yeah.
So let's play both sides of that too.
Man,
But yeah,
that's
I don't know,
good.
man. You in the game, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit back and listen, man.
Yeah.
You gonna teach me for a second.
Man, I tell you what. let me fool around with this real quick, man. So, man, you shared a lot of golden nuggets right there, man. A lot of good nuggets there. Wanted to kind of take us back to what you said as far as the misconception piece, because I agree with that. I do feel like it's a misconception in our community. When I look, so we live in Dallas, right? There are a number of large churches, small churches. I mean, we're in the Bible Belt. There are some beautiful black women here.
Cody said that. Not right.
He wanted to make sure, hey, I'm happily married. Hey,
I'm
out the
saying that
game.
stuff, bro. Yeah, I'm out the game. I'm out the game.
I'm out.
Right.
No, but there are some beautiful black sisters here. And when I go to the various churches across this great city, all I see is black men and black women dating, doing life together, married,
Right.
professional, non-professional black women. I see them together, and I think that you also mentioned something about media and how certain forums, be via social media or tabloids or magazines or whatever source of media, there's this perpetuated image of a black man chasing after any woman that's not black.
Right.
And I think that it's really just an image that's perpetuated because, like you, my friends, my family, they're all married to black women. They're all dating black women. They're all in relationships with black women for the most part. When I go out, I see brothers that are madly in love with black women. I see brothers that respect black women and ride for black women. We kind of had this conversation off air. And not to steal your thunder, but I think that it's almost scientifically proven. You desire the person that looks like you, that sounds like you, that comes from culturally, that comes from the same kind of cultural background. I mean, that just makes sense. So this notion that black men they get successful and they run off with a woman that's not black, I challenge that notion. I want us to kind of think about what we're actually saying. Are we really hanging on to what a magazine or a tabloid says, or are we kind of opening our eyes in what we see? Because from my vantage point, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but
Right.
from my vantage point, it certainly doesn't seem to be the norm.
Right.
That black men are desiring, women widely outside of our race.
Do you think as we become kind of our society becomes more universal, integrated, I mean, with the advent of social media, which is more global, people see more interracial dating than they've ever seen, and now they're saying, oh my God, black men must be running away. Is it just exposure, maybe?
Man, you know what? I think that it has something to do with what you talked about earlier. I think that the advent of social media, the access that people have to different cultures, the fact that, you mentioned from a historical perspective, it was actually illegal in some states to wed interracially. So I think that it's a number of different factors that play into the novelty, right, of seeking to date outside your race. The fact that, number one, you've got access to it now that maybe you didn't have access to it either legally or just being able to see it through the various social platforms. I think that there's a certain novelty about it for some people. But like you said, I think that it can be closed-minded for the person that says, I'm just going to date within my race, or I'm just going to date outside of my race. I think both of those mindsets are closed-minded. But I think from the standpoint of black men specifically, speaking of, like, when you say black men, I think we're kind of painting a broad brush, right? We're talking about, generally speaking, black men are looking to date outside the race. I just don't feel that that's.
I think it's unfair, right? It's intellectually shallow to say that. Now, I will say this, as I don't know how much we're gonna go into this some more, but as a father of daughters, right? So we say, I gotta have this perspective now, right? I want my daughters to be loved by whoever chooses to love them, right? And so if it's one of those things where they're going to say, oh, man, I want a black man, I want a black man, I want a black man. And the only black man that is interested is one who's going to disrespect them. Guess what? I'm be like, look, I'm praying that God sends you, somebody who loves you. Amen. Somebody who loves him and who loves you. And as a father of daughters, I realize I want them to find the person who loves them for who they are and can appreciate them. And the one thing I don't want them to do is think that they're in love. Man, I'm gonna say this. I'm thinking it. I hope it comes out the way I want to say it. Sound. I don't want them to find somebody who loves them, but not that they think this person loves them, but they want them to become someone else. Right. And that's the one fear I have for my daughters. Just being totally honest, if they date outside their race, right? Are they gonna have to become something that they're not? Or that someone that they're not called to be, indeed, or to denounce who they are, their culture, and some of the cultural things that they love and grew up understanding and enjoying, because they feel like, hey, in order for this person to love me, I have to shun this part of who I am. So regardless of whether you're dating inside your race, I want you to date a black man, if you date him, who loves you, who respects you, who will be the provider, protector, priest of the home, like all of those things that my values, and everybody else might have some different, but my values, I want to see that for my daughter. Right. Now, if they date outside of their race, I don't want them to have to compromise culture. I don't want them to compromise their identity. I don't want them to have to feel like they're less than when they're around people who are not like them and who don't embrace fully who we are and what we do. I want them to have someone who, literally the one that God has for them, right? Amen. And when that comes, I think that's the person that's like, hey, it's all good.
There we go, man. That's rich, man. And I'm glad that you tackled it from that perspective as a married man with daughters, with two daughters. At the end of the day, the beginning, the middle of the day, you want someone that loves and respects and values and cherishes your daughters for who they are without trying to change them.
Right.
And you do kind of run that risk of, dating interracially. Will you be accepted for your culture? Right. Instead of, trying to fit into someone else's. Yep. Regardless of whatever their culture is. That's good, man. I think before we wrap on this subject, I got a couple of closing thoughts on that.
Sure.
So I just wanted to encourage black women out there, man. I mean, you're talking to two brothers that, reasonably successful in their own right. Definitely love the Lord.
Yep.
That are my man is he said he's out the game, man. He's found his wife.
My good thing, as the Bible says.
His good thing. He's found his Proverbs 31. His good thing, right? And so, just want to encourage you that these are two quality brothers that really value and appreciate black women. And I think, again, in closing, that I think that it's a notion that's perpetuated by media, not really a reality as you look statistically across this nation.
Agreed.
The amount of black families that come together, that are married, that are dating, that are in relationships. So let's just be and I think lastly, I think people have agendas for perpetuating that.
Yeah.
I know one thing that we talked about, Robert, kind of off air, is that just like it's kind of unfair to paint, black men in that light, they all brothers kind of get a little success and don't know how to act and this and that, and get an audience and don't know how to behave. They forget about the women who held them down. And I think that it's unfair to kind of paint all brothers in that light, just like it would be unfair to say that all sisters are this image, this caricature that you mentioned earlier, this social media or this reality TV person that's rude and belligerent and and sometimes uneducated. I think that it would be equally a disjustice and unfair to our sisters to say that's that reality or that reality show caricature is all black women, because we know that it's not. When you look across our churches, when I look in corporate America, when I look in the medical field, there's full of successful God-fearing women. And so I would just caution us, don't buy into a narrative that's being perpetuated by media. And think for yourself, when you go out into your community, when you go out into church, when you go to work, what do you see? You see successful black men and women dating and marrying.
I think it's fair. We get to know somebody before you make a judgment.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Right. So, we got a few more minutes, about 14 or so before our segment is up, and I think that last segment is a good segue into just kind of community talk. So we mentioned at the beginning of the show that we would be talking about progress in our community and what does that look like, and how do we get there. And Robert, from your perspective, I wanted to get your perspective on what progress is to you, and what it looks like in our community, and how do we achieve progress.
Man, progress, honestly, as it looks like in our communities, it's varied. It's varied, right? We started kind of talking about, does religion still play a role in our community? And then we talked about the role of black men and black women. I think we kind of mirrored progress in this show, if you want to think about it that way, right? There is this level of, we have to have an overarching unity and unify ourselves underneath some type of spiritual and moral. Really, let's call it I'm gonna call it kingdom. That's my word I'm using. It's a kingdom vision for our community, right? That kingdom vision is bigger than any opinion. It has to be a standard, right? There has to be a standard. I think that's why when you try to eliminate our journey with the Lord, especially black people in this country, man, as far back as we've gone, we can't eliminate them from our journey. You try to eliminate them from your journey, you start to break down the progress of the people. And so we need a standard that is set, that is universal, that is not based on opinion. And then we need our God to guide us. We need our families to be strong, right? So progress means our families. And we were talking about this, I was looking it up, man, before we got started. I want to say it's 50% of black people have never been married. That might be the right number. Whereas every other race, I think it's only 30% have never been married. So our families sometimes, if we get into the disintegration of our families, that also sees the disintegration of our community, right? And disintegration of our families creates a disintegration in education, right? Which education is a huge part of our progress. And for me, big time, I told you this before off air, entrepreneurship, man. Amen. I think economically speaking, if we look down the line of all those things, we have a better shot at owning and having an entrepreneurial vision and mindset of our people. I think that's a huge part of our progress. Not being subject to the whims and the laws of everybody else. We're so dependent sometimes on other people, and I think progress for us looks like kind of taking control of the narrative in which we're speaking, not necessarily blaming, everyone. There's an employee everywhere, right? You have to have employees,
right?
But I think we do need more entrepreneurs, and I think some of that comes from vision, exposure, we talked about before. So I guess to sum up my rant or my ramble,
it's been good, man.
I think we need for me, my vision for our community, for our people, man, is what I see. Because Hosea 4:6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." And I don't think it's wrong to speak specifically, even when you're speaking spiritually, to speak specifically to your people.
Absolutely.
And so for me to speak to our people as black people, I think it's guidance from our God. I think it's strengthening our families. I think it's then taking control of our communities and then having a sense of ownership. That ownership doesn't even necessarily have to always be entrepreneurship. Ownership could be I'm owning, the community in which I'm in, owning a home, I'm owning, the values of our block, man. You remember back in the day when it was like, man, we own this community, we take care of it. We didn't just see things deteriorate and walk away from it. Progress looks like taking ownership.
Absolutely.
And I think to some degree, man, we got to come back to that. And I believe that's a huge thing. So I know you big on economics, man. So
I'll tell you what, that's rich, Robert, man. I can't say that there's anything that you said that I disagree with. I 100% support and agree with what you said in terms of kind of taking our family structure and our family life and owning that, just really taking ownership of the community and our family. For me, though, I'll take it a different route. I think that I would start with family. I think that church, obviously, we mentioned that religion and church shapes our morals and beliefs. When I kind of survey our community, and I'm talking about the black community, I see quite a bit of fatherlessness. I see quite a bit of children being born out of wedlock. And from an economic perspective, I know that a house divided, meaning that if the resources are being divided amongst several different households, you're not going to be able to acquire and build wealth like people that are like people that have a solid family structure together. And what I mean by solid is a man and a woman.
That's right.
Being married.
That's right.
And being committed to each other and building together.
Yeah.
So I think for our community to progress specifically, I would like for us to, for a man to be committed to one woman, make that commitment to her, and raise families in the right way through marriage, which then will impact our economics because you won't have a man's check being divided into child support, into alimony and things like that. It talks about it in the book of Proverbs. The Bible talks about this stuff. So when we talked about is religion still relevant, folks, it's all in the Bible. It's there. And he talks about the pains that we'll have if we don't follow it, right? If you don't love the wife of your youth and you start seeking the woman of the street, right? And then obviously your resources gets divided. So so number one, tackle the family structure in regards to progress, and then secondly, economically, as far as us building together, I wholeheartedly agree with the notion of ownership, but we are some consumers, man. Like it's not just in the black community because I think America in general are consumers.
Yes.
But when you look at our community specifically, it kind of saddens me to see that you'll ride in certain communities where someone's car is valued at more than the place that they're staying.
Exactly.
That's backwards to me. Like we've bought into this notion of consumerism and just consumption, stimulating the economy. I mean, I think we have black people have somewhere to the tune of $1.3 or $4 trillion worth of buying power.
Come on, man.
In this nation, and what do we own? What percentage of that do we actually own? What systems, what sources of production do we actually own with all this buying power? And I don't know I don't know those statistics, but I know it's low.
Yeah.
With $1.4 trillion worth of buying power, we are literally empowering other people. We'll make money and go give it right back to someone else's community.
Yeah.
There's something that, not to disparage any of our Asian brothers and sisters, but man, I think we need our butts whooped. I think we need our tails whooped good for allowing someone else outside of our community to sell our own products to us. Man. That makes no sense.
None.
How do you allow someone that doesn't like you, doesn't know you, doesn't live in your community, doesn't know our struggle to sell hair care products and products to us? Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yep, they know.
Come on,
if
man.
you don't know,
we need our butts kicked good for that.
Right.
And so I think that, what you said about owning our communities is big, man, in terms of progress.
That's good, man.
Talk about what church you pastor at, man, because you got a lot of great perspective. Let our listeners know who's blessed to hear from you every Sunday.
Well, I'm blessed to be the pastor of Freedom Church again, and we're in Bedford, Texas, 701 Harwell Road in Bedford, 76021. Don't say Bedford is too far. You drive all over the Metroplex to go everywhere else. Real talk, tomorrow's Easter Sunday, so you are looking for a place to go.
That's awesome.
We got 3 services for you tomorrow, 9 a.m., 10:45, and 12:30. If you want to go and get a sneak peek of what you might hear, myfreedomdfw.com. myfreedomdfw.com. And hey, if you are not hip to Cody and Michelle, man, y'all need to be on this show. I'm just throwing it out there. I shared it on my page. Y'all need to be on this, man. Cody will drop some proverbs on you, bro. Cody loved the proverbs, man. I be listening to the show. I told you, I'm a fan. I'm not just a guest. I'm a fan. He drops them proverbs on you, man.
Oh man, Robert, you're kind, man. This has been awesome, man. This has been great just to have the opportunity to hear from such a anointed brother in Christ, man, and just doing it the right way. Man, it's a family affair. We want to thank all our listeners for tuning in, going live with us on Facebook. Hopefully, this kind of shared kind of the heart of black men. You heard from 2 of us. You'll hear from Andrew later in the next segment starting at 6. But, man, this has been great, Robert. Hopefully we can have you on again.
Man, I can't wait to come back.
Man, that's awesome.
If they don't have me back, y'all petition, all right? Y'all ride for me like y'all did Nipsey Hussle.
Nip. Speaking of Nip, man, that's someone who also was doing a lot of good in this community.
Big-time progress for the community, man. Big-time progress for the community. Yeah. I read somewhere that it was $210 million he had generated.
My goodness.
Just for that area of his community, in our community. I mean, I'm from that area, man, so that's huge. That's huge.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, man, just thank you all for tuning in, and we're signing off. It's a family affair. Cody and Michelle.
Family affair.
It's a family affair.
Thanks for having me. Mama, I made it.
All right, man. That's
what's up. And that went by quick.
Yeah. Let's see.
Hope it worked out all right, man.
Oh, yeah.
Hope it worked out all right.